Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Hollywood is probably regretting sabotaging the black fantasy genre. Now, Hollywood back in 2018 was shown that the black fantasy and science fiction genre would perform well at the box office with the success of Black Panther. And Black Panther, when it came out, was a film that Hollywood did not want to support and released it during February, where films usually are just dumped. But they said they did this as passively as part to open up as part of Black History Month, but aggressively they really wanted this film to fail. Now, Black Panther went on in its first weekend to open at $200 million and went on to make over $1 billion at the box office and became the #1 movie of 2018. And Black Panther basically showed Hollywood there was a growing market for films in the black fantasy and science fiction genre. However, Hollywood, being the media arm of white supremacy, did not want to capitalize on that growing market as related to black fantasy and science fiction, and instead looked to sabotage that market by releasing a film made by Ava DuVernay a few weeks later called A Wrinkle in Time, and put this film out in an effort to go out here to try to prove a point that there was no audience for black fantasy or science fiction films. And when that film wound up flopping at the box office, they wanted to use this as a reason to go out here and not be able to produce any more black fantasy or science fiction films. And even though Black Panther was a major success, Kevin Feige and Disney were not interested in making Black Panther an organic part of Marvel's Phase 4, and while they announced a Black Panther sequel as related to the success of Black Panther, they really did not look to organically sequence it into their Phase 4 plans, and this basically was another plan to, again, passive-aggressively sabotage the black fantasy market as related to films. Because, yes, passively, they announced a Black Panther movie, but aggressively, they wanted to go out here and sabotage that film's sequel because they did not want to go out here and build on that success. And they did not want to build on that success because, one, they did not want positive images of black people being presented on mainstream media platforms, and two, they did not want white children looking up to black characters the way they did back from 2000 to 2004 when Kids WB's Static Shock series went on to become the #1 cartoon from, I believe, 2002 to 2004. And because they did not want to see black children and white children and children of all races seeing a black character as somebody who was elevated as something positive, they wanted to go out here and try to find ways to sabotage that character on the Static Shock show. And they also looked to try to sabotage the success of Black Panther. And this is coming back to bite Hollywood in the backside because Hollywood has come off of its worst year since the late 1960s. 2023's box office has been filled with a whole bunch of big budget flops, and these films were big budget flops because many of these films were old franchises, many of them were sequels of sequels, and many of these films wound up pushing narratives as related to social justice and identity politics that wound up alienating America's customer base, who don't want to see these kinds of movies. But Hollywood, instead of listening to the customer, wants to go out here and push its own agenda. And it's clear that their racist agenda against black moviegoers has basically, again, bit them in the backside because they had a gold mine waiting for them with the genres of black fantasy and black science fiction, a market that has been growing for the last 5 to 10 years, a market where there are hundreds of indie comics, including my own, John Haynes at Death's Door, and stories like I present on the SJS Direct imprint in books like The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, the ISIS series, the Esteem series, and many other books that I do, like my vampire novel, Eternal Night. There are a whole host of black fantasy and black science fiction stories out there that could easily be adapted into movies, but Hollywood doesn't want to make any of that money because they don't want to go out here and elevate the black image. No, what they want to do is passively promote diversity while aggressively looking to go out here and prevent black creators from getting their intellectual properties to the market. And what they're looking to do is go out here and prevent black creators from coming to the marketplace because, one, they don't want black creators to have wealth as related to their own intellectual properties, and two, they don't want to, again, people to see images of black creators out here creating their own characters and inspiring people the way Bill Cosby inspired people back in the 1980s when he made The Cosby Show, a show that basically saved NBC from going out of business the way the Dumont Network went out of business back in the 1950s. It was a black man who saved NBC, and it could have been black people who could have saved Hollywood by going out here and creating black fantasy and black science fiction films. Unfortunately, the racism of Hollywood prevents it from seeing a market that is growing, a market that is extremely popular, and a market of films that could possibly go out here and alleviate a lot of the superhero fatigue that people are encountering at this point. The reason why we have superhero fatigue is because Hollywood oversaturated the market with superhero films and TV shows and didn't see the growing market for black fantasy or black science fiction, a market I have seen grow as I've gone to events like the Schaumburg Comic Book Festival at the Schaumburg Library in Harlem and events like Anime NYC. I've seen more and more comics and science fiction coming from black writers like myself, and I've seen a lot of great and interesting concepts from a lot of independent comic creators like those on Kickstarter. So there's a market out here and a lot of great concepts out here, but Hollywood don't want them because they'd rather participate in anti-black racism, and because they'd rather participate in anti-black racism, they'd rather walk away from the billions of black dollars out there because they want to have a smooth world where they believe they can go out here and make all of these money from whites and non-blacks who are not going to the movies because they don't see anything that they want, whereas there's an audience of black customers waiting to go out here and spend money, but Hollywood didn't want those black dollars, so that's why they are basically going broke at this point. There was all of this black money out there as related to Black Panther, as related to the $1 billion it made, as related to it selling out almost every toy when it first came out, before Bob Iger and Kevin Feige basically sabotaged the sequel to Black Panther. They basically sabotaged the sequel to Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, by making a film without going out here and realizing that even when Chadwick Boseman died, that this was not the direction to go in, and not understanding that you could have just regrouped and waited a while and then let Chadwick Boseman's legacy go on and then focus on some other character like Blue Marvel and gone out here and made a movie about that character, allowing you to capitalize on the entire black fantasy and science fiction market. But they didn't want to do that, and again, Hollywood is the loser because of its racism. Now, Hollywood wanted to go out here and again stick a middle finger up at many of those black comic fans and sci-fi fantasy fans by going out here and making the Blue Beetle movie. They thought, oh, a lot of Hispanics were complaining about Black Panther's success, so they thought they would be able to get a bigger audience out of the Hispanic audience with the Blue Beetle movie. Unfortunately, most of the Hispanics that they thought were going to come out for Blue Beetle did not show up. And when those Hispanics didn't show up, this basically put egg on many of those racists in Hollywood's faces, because they thought because Hispanics were the largest minority in terms of numbers, they thought they would come out in large numbers for this movie. But we see with the black community, the black dollar had tremendous economic power, because black people took $1 billion of their, or I would say 500 million to 700 million of their 3.3 trillion in spending power, and they went and made Black Panther into a box office juggernaut. But Hollywood didn't want to go out here and capitalize on that success. They didn't want to capitalize on that audience that was already established, like executives used to do, in the past. Executives in the past would have said, look, we see an audience here. We see an audience looking to come out and spend money. So we're going to spend some money as related to creating some new and fresh concepts. We're going to create some new and fresh concepts with black lead characters and black characters entrenched in black culture. We're going to explore these concepts because we see that there's an audience there, but they didn't do that with the whole black fantasy and science fiction market. And it's clear that it's a missed opportunity for Hollywood, which is struggling at this point. Hollywood basically shot itself in the foot by continuing to be racist, and as it continued to be racist, what it did was basically set the foundation for its implosion, because with the writers and actors strikes going on, they basically again shot themselves in the foot by being so greedy. And they shot themselves in the foot because again there was a money-making foundation with the black audience. There was a money-making foundation with the black audience way back in 2018, but they didn't want those black dollars. And I guess there's a whole bunch of Hollywood execs right now regretting walking away from the black audience and walking away from the black fantasy and science fiction market, because they are looking at it and realizing, hey, we just lost billions as related to the box office on most of these superhero films, but we had the newest genre waiting there right for us, and we could have sat there and made that money on this new genre. But instead, because they only wanted to elevate white men and white women as their heroes and heroines, they wound up losing the biggest market to emerge in the last 30 years. Now, I've just completed my comic script for Isis, the Beauty Myth, and it's 68 pages, and I really need your support to get this comic out here. So I'm asking everybody to drop a donation to the PayPal or the Cash App to help me to get this comic to the marketplace, and every donation will be used to again help get this comic out. Now, if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the Isis series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, or my vampire novel, Eternal Night, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. And if you want to pick up my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find that comic at Lulu.com in paperback. And if you want to pick up my first full comic, digital, Esteem, No Good Deed, you can find that comic on Kindle for 99 cents. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today.